Hi, so we're going to talk today about Julius Caesar, some background info, and some terms to know for this unit. So, who was Julius Caesar? He lived in 100 to 44 BCE, so slightly before the time of Christ, and his full name was Gaius Julius Caesar. And he's credited with changing Rome from a republic to an empire. He started his rule as part of a triumvirate with two guys named Crassus and Pompey in 66 BCE, but Crassus died and Caesar overthrew Pompey in a civil war, and from there he declared himself dictator in perpetuity, in other words, dictator for life. He was known as a brilliant battle tactician and grew the scope of the Roman Empire through multiple military campaigns to encompass what you can see on the next slide in just a minute here. And he was assassinated by a group of nobles on the Senate steps on what's known as the Ides of March, or the 15th of March. So the triumvirate. A triumvirate is a regime dominated by three powerful rulers. It's actually where we get our three different parts of government in the United States. The first Roman triumvirate was 60 to 53 BCE, and the triumvirate, again, was Gaius Julius Caesar, Pompey the Great, and Marcus Licinius Crassus. Crassus died in battle at a time when Caesar and Pompey really, really hated each other. The ironic thing, and you'll find this out later too, is that Pompey was actually married to Caesar's daughter Julia. A civil war ensued, which Caesar won, and he overthrew Pompey. Pompey ran off to Egypt, where he was eventually assassinated, and from there Caesar was able to declare himself emperor for life until he too was assassinated because he abused his power. His nephew, Caesar Augustus, became the next ruler. If you take a look at this map right here, you can see in the red here how big the Roman Empire was when Caesar was in charge. So it was most of Southern Europe on into the Middle East here and part of North Africa. And this is what the Roman Forum looks like today. So this would have been what the world looked like during Julius Caesar's time. Now it's just ruins, but it's really cool that you can actually still go visit it if you go to Rome right now. And these are the Senate steps. You can see there are two sets of steps here. Nobody's really sure which exact set of steps it was on that he got murdered, but this is the remainder of the Senate building from his time. Now, here are some interesting facts about Caesar. He's often described as having epilepsy, which is a seizure disorder, but modern scholars think it may have actually been malaria from his time in Africa, migraine headaches, or brought on by a parasitic infection of the brain from tapeworms. Ew. Now, we get some modern words today from the word Caesar. The modern words Kaiser, Tsar from Russia, and Quasar, which is an Islamic term, come from his family's name. The month of July is named after him, and he created leap year. He's partially responsible for a modern calendar, although the Eastern Orthodox Church still does follow it. And legend says his mother had a cesarean section to have him because the word Caesar means to cut. So that's where we get the term cesarean section. So let's talk about Caesar and the ladies. So Caesar was married 3 times. His first wife's name was Cornelia. She died, and they had a daughter named Julia. His second wife, Pompeia, he divorced her because she was found in a compromising position with another man. And his third wife, Calpurnia, well, he married her when he was in his 50s, and she was just 16. That's a little gross. He also had an affair with his best friend Brutus's mother. You will find out more about Brutus as we read the play. And he also had an affair with Cleopatra, who was married to her brother. Ew, again. His daughter Julia was married to Pompey, and she was significantly older than Julius Caesar's third wife. And again, he killed his son-in-law. So there are some terms that you need to know. A patrician is a class of aristocrats and noblemen. A plebeian is a class of commoners. Rhetoric is the art of persuasive and argumentative speaking and writing. Ethos is an appeal to ethics. Essentially, what is the speaker or writer's expertise, or which experts has that person consulted? Logos is a logical appeal. Facts, scientific studies, things of that nature. And pathos is an emotional appeal where they try and tug at the heartstrings. Some more terms are monologue. This should be a review from last year's Romeo and Juliet, but it's a long speech given by one character in front of other characters on stage. A soliloquy is a long speech given by one character who is alone or solo on stage. A couplet is two consecutive lines of poetry that rhyme, and it often signifies the end of a scene, an act, or a character's exit from stage. Iambic pentameter is a type of meter that follows 10 syllables per line with an unstressed stress pattern. Blank verse is poetry written in, it doesn't rhyme, but it uses this iambic pentameter, and about 80% of Shakespeare's play is written in this meter. An aside is when a character addresses another character, but the remaining characters on stage don't hear it. And even more terms, character foil are two characters with opposite traits. It doesn't necessarily mean that these characters are having a fight or engaged in some sort of conflict, but that opposition is meant to highlight their personality traits. Symbolism is when an object represents another concept or idea, and tone is the author's attitude toward the subject matter. Imagery is strong language that appeals to the senses, and foreshadowing is the use of clues that tell us what will happen later in the story or play. Irony is when expectation is different from what really happens. And that's all you need to know. I talked really, really fast, but you can watch this as many times as you need or want to fill in your guided notes. Thanks for listening.